Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, watching the stars through the large viewing window. He had been exploring deep space for 15 years, but something felt different today. The ship's computers had picked up strange signals from a distant solar system called Kepler 442. "Captain, you need to hear this," said Elena Rodriguez from her station. She was the ship's communications officer, and one of the best at understanding alien languages. Her face looked worried as she played the recording. The sounds that came from the speakers were unlike anything they had heard before. It was musical, almost like singing, but there was something sad about it. The tone made everyone on the bridge feel uncomfortable. "It's a distress call," Elena said quietly. "I've run it through every translation program we have. They're asking for help." "Doctor," Lisa Hayes looked up from her science station. She was an expert on alien life and had studied many different species. "The signal is coming from the third planet in that system. Long-range scans show it's mostly covered in water." Commander Ryan Brooks, the ship's security chief, frowned. "Could be a trap. We don't know anything about this species." Jake had made many hard decisions in his career. He looked at the data on his screen. The planet was 4 days away at maximum speed. They were supposed to be heading back to Earth after a 6-month exploration mission. But something about those sounds made him want to help. "Set course for the third planet," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir, we should contact Earth Command first," Ryan said. "We will, but not until we know what we're dealing with," Jake replied. "Elena, keep monitoring those signals. Lisa, I want everything you can tell me about that planet." The next 4 days felt long. The distress signals kept coming, but they were getting weaker. Elena worked day and night trying to understand more of the language. She learned that the aliens called themselves Zephyrians. Dr. Hayes spent her time studying the planet. "It's beautiful," she told Jake. "The oceans are crystal clear and there are amazing underwater cities. But something's wrong with their sun." When they finally reached the planet, what they saw shocked them. The sun in this system was much brighter than it should be. It was sending out dangerous radiation that was slowly heating up the planet. "The ocean temperature has risen 5 degrees in the past month," Lisa reported. "At this rate, the water will start boiling in a few weeks." Jake felt sick. An entire planet was dying and everyone on it would die too. "Captain, I'm getting a direct communication," Elena said with excitement. "They know we're here." The main screen showed a creature, unlike anything they had ever seen. It looked similar to a dolphin but with arms and hands. Its skin was blue-green and it had large, intelligent eyes. When it spoke, the sounds were the same musical tones they had heard in the distress calls. "Greetings. Visitors from the stars," Elena translated as the alien spoke. "I am choral singer Nimara. We are the Zephyrians of Aquanus. Our world is dying, and we have nowhere to go." Jake stepped forward. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. We received your distress call. How can we help?" Nimara's large eyes seemed to fill with hope. "You would help us? Others have come to our world. They looked at our situation and left. They said we were too many and too different to save." "How many of your people are there?" Lisa asked. 800 million, Nimara replied. The bridge went quiet. 800 million lives. It was more people than lived in most countries on Earth. "Other species have visited you?" Jake asked. "Yes, the Hegemony Coalition sent ships last month. They have great technology and could easily move our people to safety. But they said it would cost too much. They said we had nothing valuable to trade." Ryan looked angry. "They just left you to die?" "The galactic community has rules," Nimara explained sadly. "Species that cannot contribute to galactic trade are not worth saving. We are peaceful. We make art and music and study the oceans. We have no weapons or rare metals to offer." Jake felt his anger rising. How could anyone leave an entire species to die just because they had nothing to trade? "Show us your cities," Jake said. "We want to understand your situation." For the next few hours, Nimara took them on a virtual tour of Aquanus. The underwater cities were more beautiful than anything humans had ever built. Gardens of sea plants grew between crystal buildings. Zephyrian families swam through the streets. their children playing games that looked like underwater dancing. But the cities were emptying. Many Zephyrians had already died from the heat. Others were moving deeper underwater. But even the deepest parts of the ocean were getting too hot. "We have perhaps 3 weeks," Nim-Ara said. "After that, even the deepest trenches will be too hot for us to survive." Jake looked at his crew. Elena had tears in her eyes. Lisa was taking notes furiously, already thinking about solutions. Even Ryan, who was usually suspicious of aliens, looked moved by what they had seen. "We need to contact Earth," Jake said finally. "This is bigger than our ship can handle." "Will your people help us?" Nim-Ara asked. "We know humans are new to space travel. You might not have the technology we need." Jake thought about his home planet. Humans had their problems, but they had never turned away from people who needed help. When earthquakes hit, people sent aid. When wars created refugees, countries opened their doors. It was just who humans were. "I can't promise anything," Jake said honestly. "But I can promise we'll try. Humans don't leave people behind." As the UES Horizon prepared to send a message to Earth, Jake wondered if humanity could really save 800 million aliens. The task seemed impossible, but looking at Nim-Ara's hopeful face on the screen, he knew they had to try. The message to Earth would take 2 days to arrive, and 2 more days for a response. In that time, thousands more Zephyrians would die from the heat. Time was running out, and Jake could only hope that humanity would prove to be different from the rest of the galaxy. 2 days later, the response from Earth Command arrived. Jake Morrison gathered his senior crew in the meeting room to hear the message together. Admiral Kate Sullivan appeared on the main screen, her face serious. "Captain Morrison, we have reviewed your report about the Zephyrian situation. While we understand your concern, Earth Command cannot authorize a rescue mission of this scale. 800 million aliens would require resources we simply do not have." Jake felt his heart sink. Elena Rodriguez looked down at the table, disappointed. Dr. Lisa Hayes shook her head in disbelief. The Admiral continued, "However, we are ordering you to remain in the system and provide whatever humanitarian aid you can with your current resources. Earth Command out." "That's it?" Elena said angrily. "We're just going to watch them die?" Commander Ryan Brooks, who had been quiet during the meeting, spoke up. "The Admiral is right about one thing. We don't have the ships or technology to move 800 million people across space." "So we do nothing?" Lisa asked. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Aquinas glowing blue-green in the light of its dying sun. "No, we're going back to Earth." "Sir?" Ryan looked confused. "Not the ship. Me. I'm taking a shuttle and going to Earth Command personally. Sometimes you have to look people in the eye to make them understand." 3 days later, Jake stood in the main conference room at Earth Command headquarters. Around the table sat the most powerful people in Earth's government. Admiral Sullivan was there, along with President Maria Santos and a dozen other officials. "Captain Morrison," the president said, "we understand your passion for this cause, but you're asking us to spend half of Earth's entire space budget on aliens we've never met. With respect, Madam President, these aren't just aliens. These are people. They have families, children, art, music. They're dying because their sun is killing their planet." General Marcus Hill, the head of Earth Defense, leaned forward. "Captain, even if we wanted to help, we don't have the ships. Our entire fleet has maybe 50 vessels capable of deep space travel. To move 800 million beings, we'd need thousands of ships." "Then we build them," Jake said simply. The room went quiet. Dr. Ben Carter, Earth's top engineer, laughed. "Captain, it takes 2 years to build one deep space vessel. You're talking about building a fleet larger than anything in human history, and you want to do it in weeks." "The Hegemony Coalition could do it," Jake replied. "They have the technology and ships. But they won't help because the Zephyrians have nothing to trade." President Santos looked thoughtful. "You're saying the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy just abandoned them?" "Yes, ma'am. And now everyone in the galaxy is watching to see what humanity will do. This is our chance to show who we really are." Admiral Sullivan frowned. "Captain, you're being emotional. We need to think practically. Admiral, with respect, sometimes being emotional is the right thing. When the Titanic was sinking, people didn't ask if the passengers could pay for rescue. They just tried to save everyone they could. Maya Johnson, the head of logistics, had been quietly reviewing numbers on her tablet. Actually, she said slowly, it might be possible. Everyone turned to look at her. Explain, the president said. If we convert every cargo ship, passenger liner, and mining vessel in the solar system, we could have about 800 ships. They wouldn't be pretty, but they could carry people. Dr. Carter shook his head. Those ships aren't designed for alien life forms. The Zephyrians are aquatic. They need water environments to survive. Then we build water tanks, Maya said. Big ones. We turn every ship into a giant swimming pool. The cost would be enormous, General Hill said. President Santos was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked, Captain Morrison, why do you think we should do this? Give me one good reason. Jake thought about Nimara's face on the screen, about the beautiful underwater cities, about 800 million people facing death. Because it's the right thing to do. And because if we don't, who will? The galaxy is full of advanced species, with great technology, but none of them have what we have. Which is, the president asked, the belief that every life matters, that you don't abandon people just because they can't pay you back. The room was silent. Finally, President Santos spoke. Dr. Carter, how long would it take to convert our civilian fleet? If we work around the clock with every shipyard on Earth and in the colonies, maybe 6 weeks? And how long do the Zephyrians have? 3 weeks, ma'am, Jake said quietly. So we'd need to start evacuating people before the ships are ready, the president said. Maya nodded. We'd have to do it in waves. Take the first groups to temporary shelter stations, then move them to permanent colonies later. Admiral Sullivan looked skeptical. This is the biggest operation in human history. If it fails, Earth will be broke, and our reputation in the galaxy will be destroyed. And if we succeed? President Santos asked. Jake smiled. Then we save 800 million lives and show the galaxy what humanity stands for. The president looked around the table at her advisors. I want a full plan on my desk in 6 hours. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. As the meeting broke up, Dr. Carter approached Jake. Captain, I hope you know what you've started. This is going to be the hardest thing humanity has ever attempted. Doctor, 3 weeks ago I was just another space captain on a routine mission. Now I'm asking my entire species to risk everything for people we barely know. But I've seen their cities. I've talked to their leaders. They're worth saving. Dr. Carter nodded slowly. Then let's get to work. We have 800 million lives to save and not much time to do it. Back on the UES horizon, Elena was monitoring communications when she received an urgent message from Aquinas. Nimara appeared on the screen looking more desperate than before. Captain Morrison's friends, Nimara said. Our situation has become worse. The solar activity has increased. We now have only 2 weeks before the deepest parts of our ocean become too hot. Many of our people are already dying. Elena quickly sent the message to Earth Command. Time was running out even faster than they thought. If humanity was going to save the Zephyrians, they would have to move faster than anyone thought possible. On Earth, shipyards that had been quiet for years suddenly came alive with activity. Workers who had never met an alien were working, day and night, to save 800 million of them. It was the beginning of the greatest rescue mission in galactic history. 3 days after President Santos approved the rescue mission, every shipyard in human space was working at full speed. Chief Engineer Sam Torres had never seen anything like it. Workers were putting in 18-hour shifts, sleeping in the shipyards, eating meals at their workstations. How many ships do we have ready? Dr. Ben Carter asked as he walked through the main construction bay on Luna Station. 47, Sam replied, wiping grease from her hands. We're converting passenger ships, cargo haulers, even old mining vessels. They're not pretty, but they'll hold water and keep people alive. The ships looked strange. What used to be cargo holds were now filled with huge water tanks. Life support systems had been modified to work for aquatic aliens. It was like building swimming pools that could fly through space. Dr. Amy Foster was working on the biological side of the problem. She had studied every piece of information about Zephyrian biology that Captain Morrison had sent from Aquinas. The good news is, they can survive in regular water, she told Dr. Carter. The bad news is, they need the water to be exactly the right temperature and salt level. If we get it wrong, they could die within hours. Meanwhile, Captain Lisa Grant was preparing to lead the first wave of evacuation ships. She had volunteered to command the most dangerous part of the mission, taking the first Zephyrians away from their dying planet. "Are you sure about this?" Admiral Sullivan asked her. "We don't know if the life support systems will work. You could be flying into a death trap." Lisa smiled. "Admiral, if Captain Morrison was willing to risk his career to save these people, I can risk my life to help them." Back on Aquinas, the situation was getting worse by the day. Captain Jake Morrison watched as entire underwater cities were being abandoned. The Zephyrians were moving deeper into the ocean, but even the deepest trenches were getting too hot. Nimara swam up to the viewing screen in her People's Government Center. Behind her, Jake could see hundreds of Zephyrians working, frantically to organize their people. "Captain Morrison, we have received word from your people. The first ships will arrive in 5 days, but we are losing thousands of our people every day now. The heat is too much for our children and elderly." "Hold on, Nimara," Jake said. "Help is coming." But Jake was worried. Even with humanity working around the clock, they might not be fast enough. Then something unexpected happened. Dr. Lisa Hayes was studying Zephyrian technology when she made an amazing discovery. "Jake, you need to see this," she called excitedly. "The Zephyrians have developed incredible water purification technology. Look at this." She showed him data about machines that could clean water and adjust its temperature instantly. "This technology is 50 years ahead of anything we have. If we can combine their water systems with our ships, we can save more people per trip." Jake contacted Nimara immediately. "Can your people help us modify our ships?" "Of course," Nimara replied. "We would be honored to work with humans. No one has ever asked us to contribute to their technology before." Soon, Zephyrian engineers were working alongside human technicians. Despite being different species, they found ways to communicate through mathematics and engineering diagrams. The ships became better and more efficient, but not everyone was happy about humanity's rescue mission. Commander Alex Parker was monitoring deep space communications when he picked up disturbing signals. "Captain, we're being watched. There are ships at the edge of the system." Jake frowned. "Whose ships?" "Hegemony Coalition. 3 heavy cruisers. They're not coming closer, but they're definitely keeping an eye on us." On the Hegemony flagship, Commander Vextar was talking to his superiors through subspace communication. The alien looked like a tall, thin lizard with cold yellow eyes. "The humans are actually trying to save them," he reported. "Our intelligence says they're converting their entire civilian fleet." The voice of High Chancellor Mordek came through the speakers. "This cannot be allowed to succeed. If word spreads that species can be saved without paying tribute to the hegemony, it will upset the entire galactic order." "What are your orders, Chancellor?" "Watch and wait. If the humans fail on their own, good. If they start to succeed, we will make sure they fail." Back on Earth, the first wave of rescue ships was almost ready. Captain Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of her converted passenger liner, now called the New Hope. The ship looked nothing like it used to. Where there had once been luxury cabins, there were now massive water tanks. Maya Johnson was coordinating the entire operation from Earth Command. She had charts and schedules covering every wall of her office. "First wave launches in 12 hours, she announced to the team. 20 ships, capacity for 2 million Zephyrians. "Is that enough?" President Santos asked. "It's a start," Maya replied. "But we need to evacuate 50 million people in the first wave to stay on schedule." Dr. Carter shook his head. 20 ships, 2 million people. We need at least 50 ships for the first wave. Then we better get 30 more ships ready in the next 12 hours, the president said firmly. Across human space, the impossible was happening. Ships that weren't supposed to be ready for weeks were being completed in days. Workers were pushing themselves beyond their limits. The elderly and children were volunteering in factories. Even criminals in prison were asking to help with the construction. On Mars Colony, teenager Billy Chen was working in the shipyards with his father. "Dad, why are we working so hard for aliens we've never met?" His father looked at him seriously. "Son, because if we were the ones dying and needed help, we'd want someone to care enough to try to save us. That's what makes us human." Finally, the day arrived. 25 rescue ships launched from Earth orbit, heading for Aquinas at maximum speed. Captain Lisa Grant led the fleet, knowing that the lives of millions depended on whether their hastily built systems would work. "All ships, this is New Hope Actual," she broadcast. "We're about to make history. Let's bring these people home." As the rescue fleet traveled through space, messages of support came from all over human territory. Children had drawn pictures for the Zephyrian refugees. Musicians had composed songs of welcome. Entire cities had volunteered to help build temporary homes. But in the cold depths of space, hegemony ships were moving into position. They had decided that humanity's mission of mercy was too dangerous to be allowed to succeed. The race to save 800 million lives was about to become something much more dangerous. Captain Lisa Grant watched her screens as the first rescue fleet approached Aquinas. The planet looked sicker than before. The oceans were darker, and steam was rising from the surface where the water was starting to boil. "New hope to all ships," she broadcast. "We're beginning evacuation procedures. Remember, we need to move fast but safely." The first Zephyrians came aboard through specially built water tubes that connected the ships to underwater evacuation centers. Lisa watched through cameras as families swam into the ship's water tanks. Children stayed close to their parents, scared but trusting. "How are our systems holding up?" Lisa asked her chief engineer. "Water temperature is perfect. Salt levels are good. The Zephyrian modifications are working better than we hoped." For 6 hours, everything went smoothly. Ship after ship filled with refugees. The Zephyrians were grateful and cooperative. Many of them had never seen humans before, but they treated the rescue crews like heroes. Then Commander Alex Parker's voice crackled over the radio from the UES Horizon. "All ships, this is Horizon. We have hegemony vessels approaching fast. 3 heavy cruisers and a dozen fighters." Captain Jake Morrison felt his stomach drop. "Lisa, get your people out of there now." But it was too late. The hegemony ships came out of faster-than-light travel right next to the rescue fleet. The lead cruiser was huge, covered in weapons and painted in the dark colors of the hegemony coalition. A cold voice came over all radio frequencies. "Human vessels, this is Commander Vextar of the Hegemony Enforcement Division. You are disrupting galactic stability. Cease your operations immediately." Lisa Grant switched to the emergency frequency. "This is a humanitarian rescue mission. We are not violating any galactic laws. You are interfering with natural selection," Vextar replied. "Species that cannot survive deserve to die. By saving them, you encourage weakness throughout the galaxy." Jake Morrison couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You're talking about murder. 800 million people." "I am talking about order," Vextar said coldly. "Stand down or be destroyed." Captain Lisa Grant looked at her crew. They were scared, but determined. "All rescue ships, continue loading. We don't abandon people." The hegemony commander gave no more warnings. Energy beams lanced out from the alien cruisers, striking 3 of the rescue ships. The vessels, built quickly and not meant for combat, exploded immediately. 15,000 Zephyrians died in seconds. "Return fire," Lisa ordered, but the rescue ships had no weapons. They were defenseless. Jake Morrison made a decision that changed everything. "All rescue ships, this is Captain Morrison. Arm yourselves with whatever you have, mining lasers, construction tools, anything. We're not going down without a fight." The battle was desperate and one-sided. Human ships used mining, equipment and construction lasers against military vessels. Some of the rescue ships had Zephyrian engineers aboard who helped modify their systems for combat. Dr. Sarah Kim was coordinating the evacuation from Aquinas when another disaster struck. The planet's sun suddenly flared brighter than ever before. The radiation surge caused massive damage to the underwater cities. The evacuation centers are failing, she reported to Jake. We're losing contact with 3 major cities. The water temperature just jumped another 5 degrees. Nim Ara's voice came through with static and fear. Captain Morrison, we are running. Out of time faster than expected. The sun is becoming unstable. We may have only days, not weeks. In the middle of the space battle, more bad news arrived. Elena Rodriguez had been monitoring hegemony communications when she discovered something terrible. Jake, you need to hear this, she said, her voice shaking. The hegemony has been causing stars to become unstable. They've been deliberately killing planets to control population growth in the galaxy. What? Jake couldn't believe it. They have weapons that can make stars flare up. Aquinas isn't dying naturally. The hegemony killed it on purpose because they didn't want the Zephyrians to spread to other worlds. The truth hit Jake like a physical blow. The hegemony wasn't just refusing to help. They were the ones who had murdered an entire planet. Send this information to Earth immediately, Jake ordered. The whole galaxy needs to know what the hegemony is doing. Meanwhile, the space battle continued. More rescue ships were destroyed. The hegemony vessels were too powerful, and the human ships too lightly armed. Captain Lisa Grant's ship was badly damaged, but she refused to retreat. We've loaded 300,000 Zephyrians, she reported to Jake. But we're losing ships faster than we can evacuate people. On Aquinas, the situation was getting desperate. Elder Venari, one of the oldest Zephyrians, swam to the communications center. Despite being weak from the heat, she wanted to speak to the humans. Captain Morrison, she said in her musical voice, we have lived for thousands of years in peace. We have never hurt anyone. We do not understand why the galaxy wants us to die. Jake felt tears in his eyes. Venari, we're not giving up. We're going to save your people. Many of us will die, she said sadly. But because of humans, some of us will live. Our children will remember that when our world was ending, humans came to help us. They will sing songs about your kindness for generations. But the losses were getting worse. Half the rescue fleet was gone. The hegemony ships were preparing for a final attack that would destroy the remaining human vessels. Then something unexpected happened. A young Zephyrian named Zektar, who had been working with the human engineers, discovered something important about hegemony technology. Captain Morrison, he said excitedly, I have been studying the enemy ships. Their shield systems have a weakness. If we can coordinate an attack at exactly the right frequency, we might be able to get through. Jake looked at his tactical display. They had maybe a dozen ships left against 3 heavy cruisers. It seemed hopeless. What do you need? He asked. All ships must fire at the same time at the same target, Zektar explained. And we need to use a specific energy frequency that matches their shield harmonic. It was their only chance. Jake coordinated with the remaining rescue ships and Captain Lisa Grant's damaged but still fighting vessel. All ships, this is Morrison. On my mark, target the lead cruiser with everything you have. Mining lasers, construction beams, even welding torches, whatever you've got. The countdown began. In the weapon rooms of a dozen battered human ships, crews prepared equipment that was never meant for warfare. Zephyrian refugees helped human engineers make last-minute adjustments. 3, 2, 1, fire. Every human ship in the battle fired at once. The combined beams, adjusted to the frequency Zektar had discovered, struck the hegemony cruiser's shields. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive alien warship exploded in a ball of fire. Commander Vextar's voice came over the radio, filled with rage and disbelief. Impossible. How did primitive humans destroy a hegemony cruiser? Jake Morrison smiled grimly. We had help from friends. Something you wouldn't understand. But the victory was costly. They had saved some Zephyrians and proven they could fight back, but hundreds of thousands were still trapped on the dying planet. Time was running out, and the hegemony still had 2 powerful ships left. The darkest hour of the rescue mission had arrived, and humanity's greatest test was yet to come. The news of the hegemony attack reached Earth in hours, President Maria Santos called an emergency meeting of world leaders. The images from the battle were horrifying. Rescue ships destroyed, thousands of Zephyrians dead, and the enemy still attacking. They murdered our people, General Marcus Hill said angrily. They attacked ships on a rescue mission. This is an act of war. Admiral Kate Sullivan was studying the tactical reports. We have 40 more rescue ships almost ready to launch. But if we send them, the hegemony will just destroy them too. President Santos looked at the faces on the screen, leaders from every nation on Earth. We have a choice. We can stop now and let the Zephyrians die, or we fight back. Madam President, said Commander Tony Walsh, who had been preparing the second wave of rescue ships, I volunteer to lead the next mission, but this time we go in armed. With what? Admiral Sullivan asked. Our rescue ships aren't warships. Dr. Ben Carter stepped forward. Actually, they could be. The Zephyrian engineers have been sharing their technology with us. Their energy systems are incredibly advanced. If we combine their power technology with our weapons, we might have a chance. President Santos made the decision that would change galactic history. Do it. Convert every ship we have, half rescue vessel, half warship. We're going to save those people and fight anyone who tries to stop us. Back at Aquinas, Captain Jake Morrison was coordinating the evacuation of the remaining Zephyrians. The planet was dying faster now. Entire sections of the ocean were boiling. Underwater volcanoes were erupting from the heat. Elder Mordun, the oldest Zephyrian still alive, swam slowly to the communication center. He was ancient, his blue-green skin pale from the heat, but his eyes were still bright with wisdom. Captain Morrison, he said in his slow, musical voice, I have lived for 300 years. I have seen the rise and fall of many species, but I've never seen anything like what humans are doing. We're just trying to help, Jake replied. No, Mordun said firmly. You are showing the galaxy what it means to be truly civilized. Not technology, not power, but compassion. Whatever happens to my people, the universe will remember what humans did here. Commander Vextar was growing impatient. His two remaining cruisers were powerful enough to destroy any human ship, but more rescue vessels kept coming. Every time he destroyed one group, another appeared. High Chancellor, he reported to his superiors. The humans are not giving up. They keep sending more ships. The cold voice of High Chancellor Mordek came through the communication system. Then destroy them all. Make an example that the galaxy will never forget. Show them what happens when someone challenges the hegemony. Yes, Chancellor. But Vextar didn't know that Zektar, the young Zephyrian engineer, had been listening to hegemony communications. The alien had learned to understand their language and had discovered their battle plans. Captain Morrison, Zektar said urgently, the hegemony is planning to destroy Aquinas completely. They have a weapon that will make our sun explode. They want to make sure no Zephyrian survives. Jake felt cold fear. When? In 6 hours. They want to wait until your next rescue fleet arrives, then destroy everything at once. Jake knew what he had to do. All human ships, this is Morrison. We have 6 hours to evacuate every Zephyrian on the planet. This is our last chance. Meanwhile, Commander Tony Walsh was approaching Aquinas with the largest rescue fleet humanity had ever assembled. 150 ships, each one modified with Zephyrian technology and armed with the best weapons Earth could build. All ships, this is Walsh, he broadcast. We're going in fast and hard. Half of you evacuate people, half of you fight the hegemony. We're not leaving anyone behind. The final battle began as soon as the human fleet arrived. But this time, it was different. The human ships were faster, better armed, and working together with Zephyrian technology. Captain Lisa Grant, commanding a rebuilt rescue ship, led a squadron of armed vessels against the hegemony cruisers. Target their weapon systems, she ordered. Don't let them charge their planet killer. The space battle was fierce. Human ships swarmed around the massive hegemony vessels like angry bees. The alien cruisers were powerful, but they were outnumbered, and the humans were fighting with desperate courage. On Aquinas, the evacuation was happening faster than anyone thought possible. Zephyrian families were swimming into rescue ships as fast as the water tubes could carry them. Human crews worked without rest, loading refugees and checking life support systems. Dr. Jennifer Lee, who was coordinating the medical side of the evacuation, watched as Zephyrian children played in the water tanks alongside human children who had come to help. Despite the danger, despite the fear, the two species were becoming friends. "How many left?" Jake asked. 200,000, Dr. Lee replied. "But the planet is falling apart. The underwater cities are collapsing from the heat." In space, the battle was turning in humanity's favor. Working together, human pilots and Zephyrian engineers had found ways to outfight ships that should have been impossible to defeat. Commander Vextar's flagship was badly damaged. His shields were failing and his weapons were offline. "This cannot be happening," he said in disbelief. "We are the Hegemony Coalition. We rule the galaxy." "Not anymore," came Tony Walsh's voice over the radio. "This is for every species you've murdered." The final Hegemony cruiser exploded in a ball of fire, but the danger wasn't over. Aquinas' sun was becoming more unstable by the minute. The planet had maybe 2 hours before it became completely uninhabitable. "Final evacuation ships, this is Morrison," Jake broadcast. "Everyone still on the surface, get to the evacuation points now. This is your last chance." The last group of Zephyrians included Elder Morden, who had refused to leave until every younger member of his species was safe. As his transport ship lifted off from the dying planet, he took one last look at the world where his people had lived for thousands of years. "Goodbye, Aquinas," he whispered. "Thank you for the gift of life." Minutes later, Aquinas' sun exploded in a massive solar flare. The planet's surface was scorched clean. The oceans boiled away into space. But by then, every living Zephyrian was safely aboard human rescue ships. 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of New Aquinas Station, watching Zephyrian children play in the crystal-clear artificial oceans. The station was a marvel of human and Zephyrian engineering combined, a new home for 800 million refugees. President Santos joined him at the viewing window. "Any regrets, Captain?" Jake smiled as he watched human and Zephyrian children swimming together. "No, ma'am. We saved them all, every single one." "The galaxy has taken notice," the president said. 17 other species have asked for human help with various problems. We've gone from being newcomers to being the people others turn to when they need help." "And the hegemony?" Jake asked. "Collapsing." When word spread about what they did to Aquinas and dozens of other worlds, their own member species rebelled. "The galaxy is changing, Captain, and it's changing because of what we did here." Jake nodded, watching as Nimura swam up to the viewing window with her children. She had learned to speak human languages and had become an ambassador between the species. "Captain Morrison," she said through the intercom, "the Council of Elders wants to thank you again. We have decided to name our first new city after Earth. It will be called Hope." "That's perfect," Jake replied. As he watched the bustling activity of New Aquinas, Jake knew that humanity had passed a test. They had shown the galaxy that some things were more important than profit or power. They had proven that sometimes the right thing to do was also the hardest thing to do. And throughout the galaxy, when species faced extinction and had nowhere else to turn, they began to whisper a single word that had become synonymous with hope: human.